Alex, it is Monday.
Monday.
The gods of wind and rain conspired against us this weekend. They blew through the Midwest. They took out your internet. They tried to shut down the podcast, but we cannot be defeated. We can be delayed, but we cannot be defeated. It is Monday instead of Sunday. We bring to you on this weekday episode 33 of the Old Men Magic Podcast. If you're joining us on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe. If you prefer audio, you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Today, Alex, we have some big things to discuss. We got a little bit of MTG finance to talk about. We're going to talk about The Rock a little bit more. I know people probably don't want to hear it. Zero comments about The Rock, but I want to keep talking about The Rock. So I'm going to talk about some recent innovations in The Rock in the Premodern format, just a little bit more Rock.
A pebble.
And then we're going to finish up with the Old Man Magic Commander Corner. But first, what do we do first? Follow-ups to episode 32. I got a few things, Alex.
All right.
Actually, just one thing, but I think you had something as well.
Yeah.
Listening back to the last podcast when I was editing, we were talking about Michael Pustelnik's version of The Rock and the appearance of Recurring Nightmare for the first time in The Rock, at least out of the decks we've discussed. And I said, Recurring Nightmare hadn't been printed when the earlier versions of The Rock were developed. That wasn't true. I always forget that Exodus was actually before Urza's block. Always forget. It's part of the Tempest block, the Wrath block, I think they call it.
Yeah, for some reason it does also seem later to me because I just, we weren't familiar with it at all.
We stopped buying. I don't know if you bought any Exodus. I don't think I bought a single pack of Exodus. Yeah. I bought Tempest, might have bought a few Stronghold, not more than
Stronghold.
And then I didn't buy any Exodus, and then I bought Mercadian Mass 2 packs. So I always think, I just forget about Exodus. I always think it's like much later than it really is. But no, the reason we didn't see Recurring Nightmare in those versions of the decks that we talked about first was just because it wasn't legal in the formats that those decks were developed in. They were developed for Urza's block standard, I think. So
okay.
We didn't see the Recurring Nightmare until last week's deck, which was an extended deck. So he had more sets to choose from. Next follow-up is, what is a spike, Alex?
What is a spike?
We introduced a couple spikes in Michael Pustelnik's version of The Rock, Spike Weaver.
And we'd never heard of spikes before. I mean, I'd seen some of these cards here and there in passing, but never really,
I was trying to figure out what they were, because Spike Feeder was just a fruit. It was a big fruit that was it had things plunged into it. But then Spike Weaver was a spider. So I'm like, what is the spike? What are spikes?
Is it fruit? Is it spider?
Nobody knows. Is it both? I think you might have an answer.
Well, you could pull this up on the wiki so we could look at it if you want. It's just the spike entry on the MTG fandom wiki. But spikes first showed up in Tempest block, and they are apparently, I don't know, this says spikes are depicted with a slug-like body with 2 rows of pods down either side of the back and a pair of pincers on the face. So they are slug-like spiky creatures in their basic formulation.
So these things embedded in the fruit and Spike Feeder, they were the actual spikes. They weren't I was like, are those like things that were plunged into the fruit by some kind of creature?
I'm still not sure what's going on with the fruit.
I think they were feeding on the fruit.
Does a spike egg look like a little spike, and those are they laid them in there, or we're like?
I mean, this is the kind of thing MTG Wiki should tell us. How do the spikes reproduce? We need to know this kind of information.
I know. In any case, most spikes are green. They almost all have that same, basic idea of being 0/0 with counters, and then you can do things with the counters.
Mm-hmm.
Spikes have served as inspiration for the creation of other abilities in later sets, including Modular and Graft.
What is this? Did you look up the Spike Cannibal? The one exception to the +1/+1 counter.
I did. He's kind of cool, actually.
There we go.
But yeah, there was only one spike in Tempest, the Spike Drone, and he's kind of generic. Not as good as the ones we talked about last week.
I've seen this art before.
Yeah, right. It looks very Fallen Empires-ish.
Yeah, it kind of does. Spike drone,
I
one
wonder if
green,
Charles Gillespie did Fallen Empires art.
0/0, comes into play with 1/1/1 counter on it. 2
Yeah.
colorless, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike drone, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So it's a
So
weakling.
yeah, he's like the Spike feeder, but just like he's smaller.
It's a baby Spike.
Yeah.
I want to see this Spike Cannibal, though. This one that doesn't come in with +1/+1 counters. 1 colorless, 2 black, summon Spike, 0/0. Comes into play with 1/1/1 counter on it. When Spike Cannibal comes into play, move all +1/+1 counters from all creatures onto Spike Cannibal.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat.
It is, but when would I use it? I'm trying to think. Let's say I got a bunch of spikes on the field and I'm using it to do all sorts of things. Why would I want to take all those counters and put them back on to one spike that can just be cleared from the battlefield with like a Swords to Plowshares or something? It's good if you're playing against a spike deck, but how often is that going to happen?
Yeah. I was thinking of it. I mean, it's going to work on +1/+1 counters that aren't, from spikes.
That's true.
So you could combo it with other cards that do something like that.
Could this devastate the pump?
Turning into a big fatty if you have a whole bunch of spike stuff going on, or things that modify the counters or duplicate counters or something. But yeah, you're right. You would. It might kind of. I don't know. It might be a double-edged sword. Yeah, you're putting all your eggs in one basket.
I wonder if anybody gets that to work. Anybody's ever done anything interesting with the Cannibal? Stronghold. It's 5 spikes, Exodus, 4 spikes.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they're slug-like creatures with pinchers on their face.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the
Spike Weaver. This definitely looks. You know what? I'm interpreting this art in a whole different way now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this whole thing was the body. It is just a slug, like on a tree branch. I don't know why I never saw that before. Spike Weaver. Do you see what I'm saying?
I'm looking on my screen. Yeah, zoom in. Oh, yeah, you're right. I hadn't looked that closely either. I thought, that was more like spidery legs and part of it. But
I'm doing a really bad job of zooming in.
But yeah, it's just like a spike, but its face is kind of spider-like.
And I never noticed that until we actually started talking about how they're slug-like creatures. Yeah, this is a branch, Alex. That's a branch.
Camouflage there on the branch.
Okay, what is a spike? The people now know what a spike is. This is an exciting follow-up. Segment 1, Alex. We haven't talked MTG Finance in a while. This isn't.
No,
I don't know.
We haven't.
I consider this MTG Finance. Cards go up, cards going down in price, all that stuff. When new sets come out, I scour those sets. Not for exciting new cards, but for reprints. I don't give a shit about new cards. I got too many new things in my life. It's overwhelming. I want the old stuff. I want familiarity. Novelty makes me anxious. So I scour these new sets for reprints of old cards, and I hope, cross my fingers, that the reprints causes the prices of the original versions to drop. That's when I pounce. That's when I add to my collection. So we had quite a few sets come out in the last 6 to 9 months that had some pretty interesting reprints in them. I'm going all the way back to Double Masters 2022, Alex. Double Masters was a booster-based compilation set released on July 8th, 2022. And I was taking a look at Double Masters the other day and scouring the set for some reprints, taking a look at the individual original printings of those reprints, trying to find something that maybe I can snag at a good price. So it's been 8 months since Double Masters 2022 was printed. Have any of the original printings plummeted in price? I'm going to pull some things up that I saw.
All right.
First one. First one, Alex, is Phyrexian Altar. There weren't that many reprints, actually. At least I should also say, I scour these sets for old border, reprints of old border originals, really. Phyrexian or Double Masters 2022, there were quite a few reprints in, but a lot of them were from modern sets. But from pre-modern sets, old frame sets, one of the most interesting ones I found was Phyrexian Altar. So this is a rare, first printed in Invasion. There's been many reprints since. Casting cost of 3 colorless. It's an artifact. And you can sacrifice a creature to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. I never paid close enough attention, I think, to cards that you could use to generate mana, sack things for mana. And they always seem to, at some point, just spike up in price. And I've never collected them because I've never played any kind of sacrifice deck. But I feel like I should. Especially these days, just because reanimation decks seem to be much more exciting to play, more fun to play. There seem to be so many more options than there was back in the day when we played. So I just want to find like some good sack outlets for a decent price, throw them into a deck. They also generate mana. That's fantastic. Phyrexian Altar, the original Invasion printing, was up to, a little bit over $100 before the reprint was announced in Double Masters 2022. And since then, it's fallen all the way to $30. So you can get it now cheaper than you could have picked it up in 2018. About the same price you could have got it in 2019. And I'm considering maybe getting 1 or 2 in the not too distant future.
I would like to have 1 of these or 2 of these. I think it's a cool card. I love that it gives you multicolored mana fixing. It's only 3 to bring out. It's not super first turn deal or anything, but like it's pretty quick and gives you whatever mana you need. I had looked at this and moved past it quickly because of how expensive it was.
It's still not cheap, but it's dropped considerably.
It's cheaper. When you look at that graph, it plummeted.
75% drop, something along those lines. 70% drop. Let's say 70. It has a pretty good rating on Gatherer, 4.443. I don't know what the kids do with it these days. They talk about things like Savra, Queen of the Golgari. They talk about Horseshoe Crab. This sounds like a joke card almost. They talk about Fireball Brain Geyser. I like that kind of thing. I don't know if this is all one combo. Darkest Hour, Phyrexian Altar, Taze-Up, Orzhov Scion, Banefire, Psychic Drain, Fireball Brain Geyser, Comet Storm. That's a little much. But, I don't know exactly what I'll do with it, but I do want to play Reanimator decks. And I like to have a sack outlet that also generates mana. And like you said, mana fixing. Any color. So that's not bad at all. And if you don't want to pay $30, I like to, when I can, pick up the original version of the card. But if you don't want to pick up the original version, maybe go for the Double Masters versions. But actually, look, they're like the same price.
Yeah.
So forget about what I was going to say. I won't even pick up these. Go for the OG. I actually like the art on the OG
and that
better.
One, the top one, that kind of sucks.
It looks like garbage.
I hate that. The one below it looks better.
Yeah. Yeah, the border.
I could stand that.
This border really does this artwork dirty.
Yeah.
Not good.
That looks better.
This one I want to like more, but there's something about it that I don't like at all.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, but I don't know.
It just doesn't do it for me the way the original does. That's freaky.
It's freaky.
Sabo Savak, your life was meaningless, but your death will glorify Yawgmoth.
It's a cool quote.
So that's one card that's available for a good price right now. I think.
This border for artifacts, man.
So much
I have
better.
that like faded white papery looking border.
So much better. Get your shit together, Wizards.
And it's harder to tell like across the table if that's a white card or a artifact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're old. Our eyesight's not very good. Next one, Alex. Also printed in Double Masters 2022, now available for what I think is a pretty good price. We talked about this one briefly before, and I kind of want to pick one up. Again, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet, though, which is why I haven't been running out to get it. Food Chain, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Food Chain is a rare, first printed in Mercadian Mask. Casting costs 2 colorless, 1 green. It is an enchantment. Again, another card that allows you to sacrifice a creature, generate mana. Remove a creature you control from the game. Add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is the removed creature's converted mana cost +1. So it's a mana amplifier, a mana fixer, a sack outlet. This mana may be spent only to play creature spells. So it has some limitations, but I feel like this is something you put in a green fatty deck. And you get your mana rampers out, you turn them sideways to ramp, and then you also sack them. You get your fatties out even sooner. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's much fancier things people do with this card. They probably have all sorts of crazy combos.
I could see it doing some stuff that gets out of hand quickly.
We talked about it very briefly when we were discussing Premodern Goblins, my Premodern Goblins starting lineup. Because there was, I think, a legacy deck, maybe, called Food Chain Goblins that resulted in the banning of Goblin Recruiter. Because I guess you can do some nasty things with Goblin Recruiter, Goblin Ringleader, and Food Chain. You can play your Recruiter, and then you can go through your deck, get as many Goblins as you want, stack them in just the right order, where you can play some, sack some, play some again, sack some, play some more, stack some, play some more, because you're always generating more mana with the Food Chain. I think the key is you get your Ringleader out, because remember, the Ringleader was the one that you play, and then you turn over the next 4 cards, and whichever ones are goblins you put into your hand. So you stack them, so there's like 3 goblins Ringleader, 3 goblins Ringleader, Food Chain, sack them. Eventually, you have at the end, you play a goblin that gives your goblins haste. So you play like multiple goblins, and kind of supposedly you can attack for lethal in like 1 turn with the Food Chain Goblin Recruiter combo if you stack your goblins right. If you're going to say, Steve, how do you stack your goblins? What order? I'm going to say, I don't know. You figure it out. I tell you about the combo. You figure it out. Anyways, I don't think I'd do that. Also, because Goblin Recruiter is not legal in a bunch of the formats that I like to play. But I think I'd still have fun with Food Chain. Like I said, just ramping out some fatties sooner. And not that expensive right now. Not cheap, but not that expensive right now. 2021, it was $70. It was already coming down before Double Masters 2022 came out. But it was still like $60 then, and now it's dropped to $23.50. Could keep dropping. But you can get this card for the same price you could have got it in about 2017, cheaper than you could have got it in 2018. Is it going to go down farther? I don't know. All the banks are failing. Maybe everything's going to collapse. So maybe wait, but maybe don't. Nobody knows what's going to happen. This could be the last chance for you to purchase a Food Chain under $30. Probably not. But I think
what do the other versions look like?
That's what I was going to look at. I think it's available for a pretty good price right now.
Yeah, that's...
Double Masters version is cheaper, even $18.95. This just ain't the same, man.
I remember this. I remember this picture, yeah.
I don't. What's even going on here?
The picture's not bad. It's like a Hydra, and they're all ripping up something together, like fighting over it.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I saw the art, like, that looked clearer or better than that. I guess it was just a bigger picture and maybe like the previews. But it doesn't look very good on the card there. It looks kind of small and blurry.
Yeah, it doesn't. But, what do I want to say? The image quality here on MTG stocks isn't always the greatest. They're not the highest resolution. What I'm noticing is the Double Masters 2022 Extras version are really underwhelming. You know, they just make the border darker.
It's just a dark border instead of a.
And they do look better, but that's just because they made
Yeah.
the light border look so terrible.
It's because the other one looks so bad. Yeah.
But $40, this is more expensive than the original, and the OG is the way to go, really. Come on.
Yeah.
Slugs emerging
All those
from,
weird
and I don't know what.
guys.
Got to go with that. But I like the food chain. And the people like food chain also, Alex. Food chain has a 4.377 rating on Gatherer. What do they say about it?
What do they say about it?
What's going on with the food chain? Arcadian masks. Combos with, I remember I saw this. This was pretty cool. Okay, so here's somebody talking about the Legacy Goblin deck. Splash green into your Goblin deck. Can exile your Goblin Matron or Goblin Ringleader to play the cards you just got, and maybe even come out with more extra mana. Goblin War Chief. Goblin War Chief is the one that will give him haste. So if you get this on the board sometime at some point and play maybe multiple pile drivers to get +2/+0 for each goblin that's attacking, and then get out like a siege gang commander at the end, I can see how you can really attack for lethal that first turn. But this person mentioned, I don't know this card, but this looked interesting to me. Combos with AVR's Mist Hollow Griffin to get you infinite blue in an infinite storm count.
Yeesh.
Mist Hollow Griffin is 2 colorless, 2 blue. It's a modern card. I don't know what set this is from. We'll get there one day. It's a 3/3 flying griffin. You may cast Mist Hollow Griffin from exile. So
okay.
I can see how that gets you infinite, man. Is there anything I wonder if there was anything printed before that or anything in an old frame where you can cast it from exile. There's nothing that's coming to my mind and nothing that I remember.
No.
But
I bet there's cards other than Food Chain that would also work well with Miss Hollow Griffin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like some other cards that
you could do a trick with. I don't know what would do the exact same thing, because the thing about Food Chain is you sack it and you get
more than
yeah.
cost. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah,
which is the key.
Yeah, I'm looking here in the comments too. There's a neat Vine Dryad was also in Mercadian Masks, and it synergizes with this card.
Let me find that. What page was that on? Was it on page 2? Page 3?
It was on page 1 of the comments.
Okay, I missed it. I want to know that because I have a Vine Dryad. And I was thinking about, I bought them when I was thinking about putting together a 10-land Stompy, which I haven't actually put together yet. Here we go. Oh, yeah. And we also talked about it because it was part of the Mercadian Mask pitch cycle. Remember?
Yeah.
Free creatures like Vine Dryad are a great bonus, essentially giving you 5 free mana. Oh, man. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I like that.
That is good. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So I think I got to pick up some Food Chain. When I went to a local LGS, what was it? When I was driving around my town trying to find an LGS that sold old frame lands, couldn't find them. I have to get all my Mirage and Urza's Block and Tempest basic lands on the internet, which kind of surprised me. I thought I would just be able to go into an LGS and be like, "Do you have any old lands?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, we got boxes full." But when I went there, the guy was like trying to talk me into buying a Food Chain. Don't know why. He was like, "They're good price right now." This was like 5-6 months ago. You trying to rip me off, bro?
Yeah.
Trying to rip me off.
Knew about that reprint coming.
Yeah, he probably did. He was like, "Oh, Premodern, never heard of it." Explained to him what it is. He's like, "Oh, Food Chain. Why don't you buy a Food Chain?" Anyways, good price right now. Good card. Lots of things you can do with it.
I like that.
The next one, Alex, that I'm going to talk about that was printed in Double Masters 2022. This one gets me excited. Like, unreasonably excited. It's because its original printing was from my favorite set as a child. A set that I hear kids these days talking a lot of shit about. They think most of it's terrible. I will say it was a giant set, so it did have a lot of garbage in it, but it had a lot of solid cards. And I loved the creatures from it. And I'm a creature guy. Concordant Crossroads. This is a rare, first printed in Legends. Casting costs 1 green. It is an enchant world. When you started calling me in like early 2022 or late 2021, I don't remember, started talking to me about Magic the Gathering again. You were like, Steve, the prices are going up so much. What's been happening? We haven't been playing for 20 years. Look, people are going crazy over Magic still. Oh my God, we should have kept all our cards. One of the things you said to me multiple times was, I think there's good opportunity in enchant worlds. Remember, you were like, what were you saying about enchant worlds?
Yeah, I had a terrible theory that since they stopped printing enchant worlds a long time ago, that any of those old enchant world cards would therefore be good cards to pick
essentially up. Pseudo reserve list, right? You were like, I don't think they're ever going to reprint these.
Kind of like a reserve list idea. It was like they aren't printing these anymore.
Like 2 months after you told me that for the
immediately proved me wrong.
Yeah. With Arborea.
Yeah, I was talking about Arborea. Yeah.
In Concordant Crossroads. But you weren't just, it wasn't just some like crazy thing that you made up. I think that people from Wizards had even said as much, that it was like problematic card type and they didn't want to do it anymore. And they hadn't printed a lot of these enchant worlds for a very long time, and they weren't making new enchant worlds, right? Is that true that they haven't made any new ones? They
definitely weren't making new ones. They didn't make anything, I don't think, after like Visions or something like that.
Yeah.
There was an enchant world. As far as reprinting them, though, they must have, because I mean, I think they've reprinted Concordant Crossroads a bunch of times, haven't they?
Mm-mm.
No? Was this the first time?
Not really a bunch of times. No, it's not the first time, but not a bunch of times.
Chronicles?
Yes. Yes. Here, let's just scoot down right here.
Yeah, scoot down.
That was it. Chronicles,
okay.
Double Masters 2022.
Okay.
I think there was even I think I even saw like a statement from Mark Rosewater on his Blogatog blog at some point about enchant worlds. So, you know, I think a lot of people were under the same impression you were, that they weren't really going to be reprinting these cards. Not only not printing new enchant worlds, but probably not reprinting these cards. But they did. They reprinted Concordant Crossroads. I don't think I ever said what it was. Creatures may attack or use abilities that include the tap symbol during the turn they are brought into play. It's a green card. You can see how this is great in green. Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden,
it's super cheap. Just one. Come on.
Just one, and then all of a sudden, all your manimals when they hit the board immediately tapping for mana. So it ramps up a color that's already full of ramp. Mm-hmm. The downside is that your opponents can do the same thing too, but you know, you usually put it in a deck where it's better for you on average than your opponent to be able to do this. Like all Legends rares, it was expensive, but it got really expensive, especially in 2022 at like 3x. It was up to almost $300. Sorry, almost $300 when they announced that this was being reprinted. I think people really love this for Commander. I think it's pretty popular in Commander.
Oh, really?
As far as Legends cards are concerned.
I mean, I believe it. It makes total sense, but I hadn't thought of it.
Right now, it's available for $105. So it's gone from $300 to $100 in the original printing in the 8 months since.
That's not too bad for
Double Masters has been reprinted. I got my eye on this, Alex. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it now, but thinking about it. It's available for the same price it was in 2019. 2x what it was in 2018. Again, still not cheap, but way off its highs. And you know, if you just want a Concordant Crossroads and you don't care about the original Legends printing. Legends rares are too expensive, really. It's crazy spending all this money on cardboard. You can go for the Chronicles one, because this is a case where even the Chronicles reprint was shooting up. This is why I'm assuming it was popular in Commander, because there are very few Chronicle cards that are super expensive. And this Concordant Crossroads Chronicles reprint got up to over $50 before, this reprint was announced. And now it's available for $11.76.
Definitely glad I didn't buy a $50 Chronicles Concordant Crossroads a year ago.
Would have been terrible. I don't know if this will ever see those prices again.
I doubt it. Especially since they've shown that they're willing to reprint this card now. Why would anyone want the Chronicles one?
There's so many Chronicles cards out there.
They'll reprint this again with new art. Did they use the same art in Double Masters?
I don't know. This is Amy Weber. She has not been canceled yet.
Oh, different art. Okay.
Different art. Not as cool.
Yeah. Nothing
Not
wrong
as cool.
with it. Yeah. Man.
That's
That
pretty
one's
neat.
better.
Okay, finally.
Like
Here we go, Double Masters 2022 extras. Now we're finally seeing an extra that has some pizzazz. A borderless. Borderless Concordant Crossroads, $20. Probably right around where it should be.
I'd rather have the Chronicles one, I think.
Yeah, I think I would too.
I like the old art, but I don't like that Chronicles white border.
Yeah, no.
And I don't like how the text block looks on it either, because it doesn't have the tap symbol anymore, and the way they changed, I don't know, it just looks different, and that sort of irks me.
Look at how concise and elegant the modern wording is too.
Yeah.
All creatures have haste.
Simple.
Beautiful. Bellissimo, Alex. Bellissimo. 4.25 on Gatherer. What do people say about Concordant?
Why not higher? Come on, just give it the 5, baby. Let's go. What's wrong with that
hard.
card?
People are so judgmental.
You're not going to get a better, for 1 green, come on, what else do you want?
Yeah, some people you
and
think
it's a
make happy.
cantrip. Come on.
What do people say about this? What's there to say about it other than all your creatures have haste? He said single turn, not first turn. Anyways, Elvish Spirit's Guide, Lotus Petal, any of the moxes that give green, you can get ridiculous mana acceleration. Great card in for mana ramping creatures in green. Especially devastating with this low, I always forget what CMC stands for. Converted mana cost. Why did we switch to that instead of just mana cost?
I think it's a way to, in certain situations, you want to differentiate between what the overall cost is as a number versus what the total cost is as, a combination of colors.
Okay. I've heard people talk about this before, and I'm trying to figure out why it was necessary to change.
Because, if something,
it's also late. It's late tonight, Alex, so my brain's working kind of slow.
We're going late. This is late for the old men. Okay, so if you have something that's 2 green, 2 colorless, the mana cost is 2 green, 2 colorless. Okay, so you couldn't also say that the mana cost is 4. I mean, you can. Yeah. That's what you and I do. But because we know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Generally, within context, but out of context, it might be confusing if you're the mana cost is 4.
Okay. I guess all I'll say about that is, I was never confused by that when I was 12 years old. So if you're confused, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe gaming for you. I don't know. Anyways, I'm tired and cranky. I remember seeing this. So when I came together, when I was looking up these cards, finding things that were cheap, saw Concordant Crossroads, I came here and I started looking through the comments. This got me excited. I didn't think about this. Concordant Crossroads with Allurin, Recycle, and Fastpawn used to be key components of a devastating elf deck that would flood the board with 20 plus elves in a single turn. Now it's been rendered obsolete by Nissa Ravane. I don't know what that is. Oh, a Planeswalker. But that made me think, oh man, I need to find more information about this Concordant Crossroads Allurin Recycle Fast Bond deck.
Yeah.
Concordant Elves.
Fast Bond's illegal in a few formats, right?
If not illegal, it's definitely restricted. It seems to be always restricted in everything.
I thought it was illegal in Premodern.
Let me pull this up. It probably is. It probably is because there's no restricted. This is where I think Premodern makes a mistake. I don't believe they have a restricted list. I believe it's just straight up banned.
Just banned.
Oh Lord, yeah, you're right. Fast Bond's like banned everywhere. It's banned in Legacy, legal in Vintage, banned in Commander, banned in Oathbreaker.
It's just so easy to build like a first turn thing with this card,
Yeah. Although when I see things banned in Commander, I'm always kind of surprised because I'm like, it's a singleton format, but then I always forget about how many different ways there are to like get a card or a specific type of card. So tutors or pseudo tutors or deck
substitute tutors,
substitute tutors, all those things that can help you find a one of. You can fill your commander deck with a ton of one ofs that can help you find a particular one of. I guess I kind of get it. I never played with Fast Bond back in the day.
Neither did I. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Green?
Like I'm pretty sure we knew about it.
We did. I'm sure I know I had Fast Bond.
With Channel Fireball, like I know there were people that it's just I just don't think any of our friends ever made a deck with Fast Bond.
Never.
So we didn't really like pay much attention to it.
Never. Anyways, Concordant Crossroads with Allurin enchantment where any player may play creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less without paying their mana cost and as though they had flash. Recycle 4 colorless, 2 green. Skip your draw step. Whenever you play a card, draw a card. Okay. And then Fast Bond. So you're playing lands, drawing cards, playing creatures for free, tapping them if they're manimals, mana generators, right as they come out. Elves decks, Rofilos, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Priest of Titania, Alex.
Mm-hmm.
Land Loire elves, Findhorns.
Yeah, there's so many cards there. Like all these cards you just mentioned, how did they not realize that these cards were just going to be like way too strong together? Like they made so many like strong elf cards and cards that go like with that theme.
Yeah.
Around, I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
They were on drugs. They just didn't care.
Mm-hmm.
They're going ham. They're increasing the power level. Then they get yelled at by the CEO. They're like, you're destroying the game. And then they put out like a Fallen Empires. It goes in cycles.
Yeah.
Anyways, Concordant Crossroads. I'm excited that is below $100 now. I want it to keep falling. Everybody. Keep selling. Keep selling. Well, everything's going to shit.
It wouldn't surprise me to see that reprinted again fairly soon,
Yeah. Well, when I see Chronicles cards go this high, this tells me there's just a ton of demand for it. And if it's not on the reserve list and there's this much demand for it, they're gonna reprint it. I'm trying to think what were the most expensive cards in Chronicles when we looked. It was City of Brass was up there.
Yeah, City of Brass.
And Blood Moon. And Ashnod's Altar.
I always forget about Blood Moon.
Yeah. Blood Moon hasn't dropped that much, but Blood Moon was also just not reprinted in Double Masters 2022. City of Brass was just reprinted. Ashnod's Altar. I think this was reprinted, right? This plummeted.
Blood Moon's been reprinted in like other master sets though, right? Like it's been
$10. So boom, $5. What was Ashnod's Altar just reprinted in?
Probably the Brothers War.
That was it. That's right. Oh man. That's got to be a future episode where I talk about all the Brothers War reprints and the massive drop in
Give that
price.
a few more months and see,
Yeah.
where all those prices. I mean, we'll probably see a little bit by now, but
I like to give it a good 6 to 9 months.
let me see the printing history of Blood Moon, if you don't mind.
I think it's just the Dark Chronicles.
There had been some Masters version of it, but
and then there were like some smaller printings, I think. Oh, Double Masters, original Double Masters. Oh man, I didn't realize it was 8th and 9th edition too.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Those look terrible.
That's ugly.
I know the dark one is expensive, but it's an absolute beauty. It's an absolute treasure.
It looks so much better. It's so crazy how just having like a black border on a card like that can make it look that much better.
Still close to $100. I want this
Plus
to come
it has
down.
the moon symbol, moon with a moon.
Yeah. Epic.
Can't beat that.
The Chronicles one isn't bad either, though. Like, it doesn't have the black border, but I do like, I like this art.
It still looks better than that.
It looks better than whatever the hell this is. No disrespect. Anyways. Next card, Alex. Next card that was reprinted in Double Masters 2022 and has plummeted in price. I like this card. And I want to put it in my commander deck that I'm building, but I'm not going to because that commander deck is only going to have green creatures. And this is not a green creature, but it's a shame. Because if I was going to put in a white creature, this might be one that I put in. Weathered Wayfarer. This is a rare that was first printed in Onslaught. It costs 1 white. It is 1/1. It is a nomad cleric. So you can put it in a cleric travel deck too. I love travel decks. Pay a white, tap, search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Play this ability only if an opponent controls more lands than you. So it's like a land tax on a stick, but you can use it to get any land, which is awesome. Like any land. It would go in my. I would think about putting it in my commander deck because I could use it to get my duels. But you can also use it to get utility lands. I mean, you can go pull a Maze of Ith. You can go pull a Wasteland, a Strip Mine. Gaia's Cradle, if I had one. Sarah's Sanctum, if I had one.
Yeah,
Library of Alexandria, cool. If I had one. I like this card a lot. It's not super expensive. It's not cheap. $10 cards are not cheap. When you're talking about trying to make decks, multiple decks, a single deck is 60 cards. 25 of them are land. 35 aren't land. $10 a piece. What are you gonna do? Put together $400, $500 deck? Come on. I mean, that's kind of what you got to do if you want to build a good deck, but it's not that reasonable for most people, especially children. This is a children's game. But while $10 isn't cheap, it's significantly cheaper than it was. It was $10 when this was announced. Now it's $5. Also not cheap, but
Yeah, but for $5 now, it's an alternative to, land tax or tithe even, which is more expensive. So
alternative to land tax, alternative to tithe.
Good for $5.
Land tax you can use over and over, but you just get planes, right? Darn it. I should know this.
Yes, I think it's planes. It's either planes or basic lands, but I think it's planes.
That's what I'm trying to think. I'm like, oh man, was it planes or basic lands? I think it's planes planes. Oh, Jesus, Alex, what are we doing? Basic lands. We know this. We know this, Alex. What are we getting confused about? Something is planes only. It's not tithe, because tithe I'm putting in my commander deck so I can get my duels. Tithe.
Then I'm stumped.
Tithe, I believe, is any land.
No, the tithe is plains.
Oh my God.
I was gonna say that, but then you sounded so confident.
Yes. Okay.
You put in there so you can get your duels that are.
I can get my duels. I can still get my duels. It is in there. It's in my commander deck, so I can get my duels. But a dual land is plains. A dual land with white mana is also plains. Holy smokes! We're all over the place, Alex.
Yeah.
But Withered Wayfarer, it is. Related in some way to land tax and tithe.
Yes, for sure.
Why don't you just put all three in your deck, man? Put all three in your
exactly.
Deck. Current market price of $5.35.
Not bad.
4.306 on Gather. All these are killing it on Gather. All these are over 4. Well over 4. That's very high. Mm-hmm. Sometimes when I'm just reviewing a new set, I like to go to Gather and I just like to sort. Not sort, just search for cards in the set only above 4. That's kind of how I find the meat in each set, the best cards in each set. It's a good way to search, find cool new stuff. I have a couple of honorable mentions, Alex. So these are the ones that I'm most interested in picking up that I think are available at a good price now. Some of the heavier hitters, Food Chain, Concordant Crossroads, I'm going to keep waiting because, we're about to enter another Great Depression. All the banks are about to collapse. People are going to have to sell their cardboard for food, so I'm just waiting. Mm-hmm. But what was I going to say? But if you don't want to wait, they're good now. They're available, I think, for decent prices. When I see something that's like 60, 70% off its high, never know if it's going to go lower, but what I will say is it's definitely cheaper than it was. You probably liked it when it was at 100. You should definitely like it now when it's at 50. But a couple honorable mentions. These ones they weren't really as expensive as some of the bigger ones, Concordant Crossroads, Food Chain, even Phyrexian Altar, which blows my mind that it got up to like $100. Yeah, but I also noticed Phyrexian Tyranny. This was another pre-modern era.
Oh yes, I remember this
card that was reprinted in Double Masters 2022. Again, never super expensive, but over $5. And now it's available for $1.45.
I'm almost sure I got one of these.
Phyrexian Tyranny is an enchantment from Planeshift. It is 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, always fun colors to play. This can go on my Solkanar the Swamp King deck, maybe. Whenever a player draws a card, that player loses 2 life unless he or she pays 2. Also good in like Howling, in combination with Howling Minds or something. Uh-huh. Things that make everybody draw.
Yeah.
What do I want to talk about? What do I want to say? When it's an effect that has the same effect for all players, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, okay.
What's a good word for that?
Like
I'm blanking. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you've cursed me too.
Yeah, darn it, Alex. I was hoping you would save me. But some people don't like Howling Mine because it's like mana flare, even like Concordant Crossroads. But I feel like Howling Mine's harder to pick. Concordant Crossroads is easier to build around. Symmetrical cards with symmetrical effects. Yeah. Concordant Crossroads, it's easier to build a deck that's going to benefit on average more than your opponent from that haste ability. But good luck doing that with a Howling Mine, which just has everybody draw 2. But if you have something like Phyrexian Tyranny out at the same time,
you need to punish with Howling Mine. You need to punish them for getting that benefit as opposed to
But actually, when I'm saying that, this does this to you also. So who knows what you're going to do with Phyrexian Tyranny? Whenever a player draws a card, that player loses 2 life unless he or she pays 2 colorless.
Well, I don't know.
The key is to have more mana than your opponent. Ooh, land destruction deck. Sinkholes, Stone Rains, Phyrexian Tyranny, Howling Mines. Sounds like a terrible deck. Mana denial of some sort. What else do you do with it?
I mean, I'm thinking of like, if you have an effect that's going to force them to draw and not you, it's going to be better. But then you're giving your opponent cards. You know what I mean?
Card advantage.
It's like you don't want to, if like you want to brain geyser your opponent, then like
cast that Ancestral Recall. Huh? Cast that Ancestral Recall on your opponent. Go, ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Have these 3 cards.
But it's
6 life.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to make this card work, but I like it for some reason. Put this in the category of cards that I want to make work, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Oh, great. I'm so stupid. Gatherer tells me this plus Necropotence equals win since you won't be drawn. There's other things you can do that too. You can't play Necro in a lot of formats, but there are Necro-like cards where they're like, skip your draw step, pay a life, draw a card, but that's still drawing a card. I'm going to do this real quick, Alex. I'm going to look up the exact wording on Necro.
Should look up Phyrexian Tyranny on Gather. I paid $2.96 for my Phyrexian Tyranny.
Damn.
So not the worst, but I could have waited longer.
Okay, so I don't know if it'll work with other things with Necro-like effects, but it definitely works with Necro because of the peculiarities of the wording in the card. Pay 1 life, set aside the top card of your library, put that card into your hand at the beginning of your discard phase. So is the idea that you can argue that this isn't actually drawing a card, that you're setting it aside and then putting it in your hand?
Maybe.
Is that the idea
what's
here?
The newest wording on Necropotence say? Did they change that?
Where's the best place to go for the newest wording?
I look on Gatherer for that.
Usually Gatherer, yeah, that's what I thought. Here we go.
Yeah, it still says put the card into your hand. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, put the card in your hand. So maybe this is one of those weird little peculiarities of a card that you can benefit from. Are there any formats where you can play Phyrexian Tyranny and Necropotence? Don't know. People also talk about putting this card in Phyrexian Tyranny in Underworld Dreams deck, but why not just Underworld Dreams on its own? I have trouble deciding whether or not it is better than Underworld Dreams. It seems to me like Underworld Dreams is definitely better. I got to think about that some more.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You ever play Necropotence, Alex? I never built a Necropotence deck.
I never did either, no.
And I want to now. But what's it even legal in?
I think I shied away from it because it was like, so popular.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, I want to do something different.
Well, none of the people we played with really ever had Necro decks. It's banned in Legacy. It's restricted in Vintage. It's legal in Commander, but it's only a 1 up there. It's legal in Oathbreaker. Oathbreaker showed up on Scryfall already?
Yeah.
Isn't this like
announced that?
Yeah. And who developed Oathbreaker? Is it like an official? It wasn't like an official announcement by Wizards of the Coast, was it? That we're developing this new format? It was some non-WOTC.
You mean initially, like the people who invented it? I don't know.
Yeah. Has it been around for a long time? And I'm just hearing about it now because there was some.
Yeah, I don't think it's brand new, but I don't know how old it is.
Okay.
People were already playing it.
I'm just surprised. I just heard about Oathbreaker like 2 weeks ago on Twitter when everybody was tweeting about Oathbreaker for one day, and now all of a sudden it's on Scryfall. But we can't get some Premodern up in here. Come on, Scryf, I'll get it together. Put Premodern up here.
Another card people are mentioning is Wheel and Deal in combination with Phyrexian Tyranny.
Okay. I'll look that up in a second.
Okay.
I'm just like the thing that I just want to play. I want to play an old school Necro deck where I just Necro the fuck out. But I can't in any of these formats. You can't. It's just one ofs are banned or restricted. Nobody lets us have any fun any longer.
No.
You and me, Alex, we can play Necro decks against each other.
Format where you can play that.
Yep. What were you telling me to look up?
Wheel and Deal.
Wheel and Deal.
From Onslaught, I think.
For use with Phyrexian Tyranny.
Yeah.
I like this art. It is Onslaught. It is 3 colorless, 1 blue. It is an instant. Any number of target opponents each discards his or her hand and draws 7 cards. Draw a card. Okay, here we go. Here we go. It's a draw 7. But not for you, just for your opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, I just...
You're like, I did it!
I just got excited. But now I'm now I'm forgetting the name of the card. It's a Djinn.
What Phyrexian? Oh.
It's a Djinn, and I'm like, I want to play this stupid card because I love the art, but it essentially Ancestor recalls your opponent.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
When you play it.
Yeah. People have suggested that for group hug decks as well, actually, by the way.
Oh, you should put it in. Now I got to find it though, and I just got to search Mercadian Masks. I got to search Mercadian Masks because I can't remember what it's called. It is cheap though. How much did I buy it for? Less than $1? I think it was less than $1. Can I sort color?
Find it.
Can I sort? I wish I could sort out cards of just one color. This is the part of the episode where you watch me scroll through the card list of Mercadian Masks and mtgstocks.com.
It's super fun.
To try to find a Djinn that has art that I really enjoy, but that also Ancestor recalls your opponent when you play it. So I'm like, when am I going to play this card? Am I ever going to win a game if I play this card? Maybe if I put it in my Phyrexian Tyranny deck. But then you're running a 3-color deck, black, red, blue, where you got to play this Djinn for 2 blue.
Yeah, well, that's not the worst.
It's not the worst, but it's also not the best. Watch I passed it up. Next, we're going to move on to the part of the episode where I again go through the card list of Mercadian Masks on MTG Stocks in reverse.
You guys love a Mercadian Mask card list?
Yes! Indentured Djinn, Alex.
There you go.
Indentured Djinn. I love this Djinn. You might be saying, Steve, it's not pronounced Djinn. I'll be like, I like it better when it's pronounced Djinn. I don't care. It's 1 colorless, 2 blue, 4/4 flying. 1 indentured Djinn comes into play. Each other player may draw up to 3 cards. Okay, so you're not forcing them to.
Right.
But now they got a real decision to make.
Right.
They're like, do I draw the 3 cards, take the 6 damage, or do I just do nothing and let this guy put out a 4/4 flyer for CMC3, aka 1 colorless.
Nice use of the CMC.
Yeah. I just like the art. Mercadian Mask has a lot of good art. I like the blues in Mercadian Masks.
I like how they got back to the like Arabian Nights sort of feel, like, you know.
They need to do more of that. I just had a thought and then it escaped my mind. It was, I read a comment the other day where somebody was saying, oh, they should definitely build a set around this theme. And I can't remember what it was, but it was a really good idea. And when you mentioned them going back to the Arabian Nights like theme, it sparked something. But that spark turned into an ember and then faded away. I can't remember what I was going to say. So I'm going to move on. Phyrexian Tyranny. The other honorable mention, Alex, is City of Brass. So City of Brass has actually dropped like significantly in pretty much every reprint since, in every set that it was printed in.
I'm actually surprised by that. I thought it would.
So am I. But since that Double Masters reprint, and it was right at the time, so I don't think it was a coincidence. It was right then, June, July. Announcement was made, City of Brass in 8th edition plummets. City of Brass in 7th edition. What does it do? It plummets. Not really, but it dropped. City of Brass and Arabian Nights. What did it do, Alex?
Oh boy.
It didn't do anything. It's still expensive. Was it in like June? About the same exact price.
It's hard to tell with this, like at this point now, like
Yeah.
Arabian Nights cards, like
it was $500 when Double Masters 22 was announced, and it's still $500 to $600 now. I don't think any reprints are affecting the price of any Arabian Nights cards. Yeah. There's too few. And they're all in people's vaults. They're in Rudy's vaults. They're in Arabian Night Hoarders vaults. Dan Bach probably has all of them, 80% of them. Who knows? But the Chronicles one went down considerably. This is the one I have. It dropped from over $25, really.
Yeah, that's the one I have.
Approaching 10. Approaching 10. So now's not a bad time to pick up some Cities of Brass.
Back to what it was worth in the 90s.
Had them. The other cool thing is, not only did the Double Masters reprinting like weaken the prices of the old printings, but I really love the borderless new printing.
That's nice.
The Double Masters 2022 borderless is like one of the nicest versions of City of Brass. It's no Arabian Nights, you can't compare to the original, but
yeah, I like that.
I might like this one almost more than the Chronicles one. And if the Chronicles one didn't have the original Arabian Nights art, I definitely like this one more. Like I like this one more just based on the art alone. Mm-hmm. But I have that connection to the original artwork. So that still kind of makes me cling to the Chronicles one. But this is really cool. I like the new one. So, drop in price. Some of these might have just been going down because of the market in general was going down. Cards in general were getting cheaper. But, some of them like Food Chain, Concordant Crossroads, that was definitely caused by the reprint.
Yeah.
They dropped significantly right when the reprint was announced. Actually, even the City of Brass started dropping right when the reprint was announced. And that was before everything in general started dropping.
Well, that's very interesting.
So that's my review of the cards that I enjoy. Old frame, pre-modern cards. They were dropping in price after they were reprinted in Double Masters 2022. I want to do a lot more of this, Alex. I got to revisit prices from Brothers War, like you said. I got to revisit prices from what are some of the other cards that had a lot of reprints in them. Dominator Remastered. Definitely in a few months, I want to look at some of those. Heavy on pre-modern reprints. There was another one too. Something printed right after Double Masters. There was another big one. You know what I'm talking about?
Did you say brother? You said
I said Brothers War.
Remastered. Brothers War. Dominaria United.
Dominator Remastered was most of the reprints.
Yeah.
Double Masters 2022. Double Masters 2022. Maybe that was it. Maybe Dominator Remastered was the only other big one.
I can't
Anywho.
remember now. Too many sets.
I think that was it, actually. We got 2
It
sets.
probably was, but yeah.
2 more sets that we got to revisit. We got to go through, find cards that are reprints of previous old frame cards and see how the reprint affected the price of the original printing. Next segment today, Alex. The people have been going crazy over our series covering the Rock and the evolution of the Rock. I'm getting comments. People are stopping me on the street and they're just like,
did not believe you.
They're bowing. They're doing high fives. They're saying, we've never heard anything like this. This is the best podcast series we've ever heard. Please do more. And we will do more. Not only more Rock, which you're going to give right now, but also I want to do like multi-episode series on a few other decks too. I think maybe I'm going to go deep on Fires of Yavimaya next. So maybe that may be coming up mid-year. But for now, I wanted to end our discussion of the Rock by talking about some recent twists on the Rock that I've seen in Premodern. So this is a little review of a deck some people are calling Natural Order Rock. This is a little graphic that was put together by the Cloud Goat Ranger at Cloud Goat Ranger on Twitter. His name is Michael Huip. He does a lot of good He does streaming of pre-modern tournaments. So like the best online pre-modern content you can find really is on the Cloud Goat Ranger Twitch channel. He streams lots of like matches between him and his buddies, lots of like monthly tournaments. In Natural Order Rock, the purpose of Natural Order Rock is to get out a big green fatty, and it supplements the traditional game that the Rock plays. So if you start looking through these cards, all the same lands, some land destruction in Dust Bowl, some man lands in Treetop Village. You got your birds and Wall of Roots as manimals. Well, Wall of Roots isn't a man. Mana generator, Bird of Paradise, manimal. Wall of Blossoms, which we've seen in the Rock for some card draw. Yavimaya Elder, Ravenous Baloth. Seen plenty of that. The traditional Rock also has the traditional Deranged Hermit and Recurring Nightmare. So you get out your millions, play the Deranged Hermit multiple times with the Recurring Nightmare. But if that doesn't work, if you don't get your millions, you can also use this deck just to play Natural Order to get out a giant green creature. So you can sack a Squirrel, Natural Order, up a Phantom Neshoba, or a Symbiotic Worm. I really like this, Alex. I like giant-ass creatures, and I like paying them for far less than their casting cost by playing a Natural Order instead.
I think Natural Order is a cool card.
Also has the traditional, the Rock discard in Cabal Therapy, Duress, Pernicious Deed, some removal that we talked about last week. But I like this version a lot. I think if I ever put together the Rock, this is what I might start with, just so I can play Natural Order and Natural Order up a Symbiotic Worm. You know what a Symbiotic Worm is, Alex?
I can't remember. Pull it up.
It's a big-ass green creature.
I was looking up Phantom Neshoba.
It's a big-ass worm. It's a big-ass worm from Onslaught. You can pick one up for $1.17. It's 5 colorless, 3 green. So much better to Natural Order it than it is to play it out. It's a 7/7, and when Symbiotic Worm is put into a graveyard from play, you put 7/1/1 green insect creature tokens into play. So you can Natural Order out this big guy. You got one big giant creature. But if anybody tries to clear him from the board, except with Sword to Plowshares, if they put him in the graveyard, you get 1/1s, 7/1/1s back. You can sack them to your Recurring Nightmare if you feel like. Get 7/1/1s. If you blow up your Pernicious Deed, that's not going to work though, because the Pernicious Deed you'd have to pay 8 as X, so never mind about that.
I used to use Verdant Force with Natural Order,
Okay.
and that generates tokens too, so that could even work in this deck.
I might be considering that.
Similar to the Symbiotic Worm. You don't get the tokens all at once, but like you give them to you one a turn, right?
Yeah.
Actually, 2 a turn, I think, because it happens on your opponent's turn.
It does, yeah. Like on every upkeep, right?
Yeah.
Phantom Neshoba is another. This is a creature that makes a lot of appearances in a lot of different pre-modern decks.
It's good.
And it's really good. You can pick them up fairly cheap. Original, $3.13. I think it's been reprinted plenty of times too. Yeah, I mean, this is a card you can pick up. Dominaria Mastered, of course. 25 cents. You can get yourself a Phantom Neshoba, even old border style, for 30 cents.
Heck
There
yeah.
we go. 5 colorless, 1 green, 1 white. Creature, Beast Spirit, 0/0, trample. Comes into play with 7+1/+1 counters on it. Don't play that spike carry-on or that carry-on spike against me with my Phantom Neshoba and steal my +1/+1 counters. Whenever Phantom Neshoba deals damage, you gain that much life. I friggin' love spirit-linked creatures or life-linked creatures, and I friggin' love them when they have trample.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whenever Phantom Neshoba deals damage, I just read that. I'll read it again. You gain that much life. If damage would be dealt to Phantom Neshoba, prevent that damage. Remove a +1/+1 counter from Phantom Neshoba. This is one thing I will say. I don't think I totally understand Phantom Neshoba. I have to have somebody clarify this for me. Do you have to prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter? Or is it something you choose to do? Because I feel like you have to. So you get this guy out. He's 7/7 when you play him. Your opponent could bolt him, make him a 4/4.
Well, if you bolted him, he'd be a 6/6, right?
Oh, okay. Maybe. So is it anytime damage is dealt to him, you remove
prevent
a +1/+1 counter?
And remove 1 +1/+1 counter.
Okay. So that's even better than I thought it was. For some reason I'm unsure as to whether or not for each point of damage that was dealt to the Neshoba, you had to remove a +1/+1 counter.
No, I think it's just 1 +1/+1 counter.
Okay. Okay then. But even if that happens, you got to remove a counter. He gets smaller every turn. You do have him in
your graveyard recursion, and you can bring it back.
You do have him in a deck where you
7/7 again.
Have recurring nightmare, so that's great. I love the Neshoba.
Yeah, not bad.
Even though I don't understand how it works, I still love it.
I did not know that. I might have seen this card once before, but I did not remember it really. It's good. Trample, Spirit Link.
It's fully equipped, and it's economical. The Neshoba will definitely be appearing in some of my decks. So that is the Natural Order Rock. I like this version. I got to play this version at some point. Cool. One other thing that I've been seeing pop up in the Rock, it had the whole pre-modern world abuzz, Alex. People were going nuts. A guy named Lanny from New York, I think his Twitter handle is Lanny NY or Lanny NY MTG, something along those lines. He put Phyrexian Rager in the Rock, and people were going buck wild. They were hooting and hollering. They were giving him virtual kudos. They were giving him real life kudos. People started going crazy, putting Phyrexian Rager in every goddamn deck they can think of. Somebody was even like, that's what we're doing now? We're just putting Phyrexian Rager in everything? Maybe that is what we're doing. Phyrexian Rager is just... I think it was like a card that saw some play in like draft back in the day when it first came out in Apocalypse. It is a 25-cent card, 25-cent common from Apocalypse. It is 2 colorless, 1 black, creature horror, 2/2. When Phyrexian Rager comes into play, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Mm-hmm. That's it. I think the idea is that maybe putting a card like this in a lot of decks can just improve the consistency of your deck. You kind of just put it in there, I think, if I'm understanding why it was so good in the rock. I think you just put it in there for the card draw ability. So
yes, yeah.
you
It doesn't
get
do
what
anything else.
you get what you need sooner. I don't know. But apparently this made the rock, for the people who play tested it, a lot more consistent, and they were really digging it.
Okay.
They wrote articles about it. They were going crazy. I saw this and I immediately thought, I think I'd like to give this other card a try instead. Look at those new versions of the rock where people slotted in Phyrexian Rager, slot out Phyrexian Rager, maybe put in a card that you showed me. This is kind of what I want to try. Nantuko Cultivator. So it's 1 more mana. It's 3 colorless, 1 green. It's another 2/2. When Nantuko Cultivator comes into play, you may discard any number of land cards from your hand, put that many +1/+1 counters on Nantuko Cultivator, and draw that many cards. So it's 1 more mana, but it also has the card draw ability. But you do have to sack. You have to discard lands to draw those cards. So I'm not entirely sure, but I do feel like late in the game, maybe when you don't totally need the lands, you can hold them for 2 or 3 turns, pitch them to get even more card draw out of just 1 card. Plus, it comes with a bigger body. So I don't know. I kind of want to give this card
going either way. The Phyrexian guy is 1 mana less, so it would be faster, which is nice. But yeah, I can see
you're playing the rock. You're playing a mid-range deck. It's not a deck that really requires speed. So I'm like, 1 turn more? I don't know. But it is more than 1 turn more. It's not just that it's 1 more mana. You do got to discard the card in order to get, you got to discard the land in order to get the card.
I would sort of have to, I feel like I'd have to be playing this deck a little bit to see like how often my hand size is really low versus, you know what I mean? And kind of, if I was constantly having like a low hand size and I wanted to draw a card, then I'd go with the black one. But if I had like land that I wasn't using, then this seems like the choice.
I want to give him a try. You also got to remember he's also in a deck, that has 3 birds, 3 walls of roots.
Yeah.
And, in other versions, even more than that. Think about the first version of the rock that we ever talked about. That was just full of animals. Full of elves that generated mana.
Either way, I like this creature, though. I'm definitely going to try this guy in a deck.
Just thought about that. I'm like, oh, here's another card that maybe you can get some card draw out of. And more than one card, potentially. 1 more card, Alex, I might put in a version of the rock that I build. I think I love this card. Not in the natural order version of the rock, but I do see this guy, like Phyrexian Rager, appear in other versions of the rock. It is a common from Onslaught. It's 15 cents. It's a big body, a 6/5 beast for 5 colorless, 2 green. You can cycle it for 2 colorless and a green. Discard this card from your hand, draw a card. When you cycle Krosan Tusker, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal that card, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. So, late game, if you have the mana and you want a big body out, you can play this guy late game. Early game, you can use them for making sure you don't miss a land drop. You can use them for mana fixing, to get that swamp or that forest, depending on which one you need. You can use them if you feel like shuffling your library for some reason. I don't know. He's also card draw.
I like this, yeah.
I think he's really good, and he's cheap, and it's a common. So, I think I would put this guy.
Yeah, if you compare it to I keep forgetting what he's called now, the Phyrexian, what's his face?
Rager.
Rager, that's right, yeah. If you cycle this guy for 3 mana, that's the same as paying the 3 mana for him.
Yeah.
But with this guy, you still draw the card, but you get a land, so you're kind of like, what do I want, a land or a 2/2?
You don't lose the life.
Yeah.
And
So
if
I
it's
might
later
put
in the
this
game,
instead of the Rager. I kind of like how this works with the cycling.
I think I would too. I don't understand all the rage about Phyrexian Rager, but also I don't play that much. Not nearly as much as the people who are going crazy over the Phyrexian Rager.
Yeah.
But I do like the Croson Tusker. This is not an unknown entity to these people who love the Rager. They played the Croson Tusker plenty. It's been in the Rock in many versions over the years. But I feel like it should be getting more play than I see.
Oh. Interesting.
I also love when I find a card like this. It's really, really good. Has multiple use cases. Can be good early game and late game. And it's also 25 cents. Not even 15 cents, boy.
I might put this in my Nantuko Cultivator deck because I need to get that land in my hand.
Yeah. You're writing things down. Take notes, Alex. You're welcome.
Goddamn right I am.
I love the Tusker.
Tusker.
It's a beast. You can also put him in a beast tribal deck, which maybe I got to build someday. I know it exists. We're always talking about these beasts. I never see beast tribal decks. I think there is actually like a beast. It's not a beast lord, but essentially a beast lord.
Oh yeah, okay.
They should have called him a beast master. I mean, come on, how they missed that opportunity. But you know what I'm talking about, like something that gives beasts +1/+1 and all that jazz. Never see it though. Okay, Alex, that's the end of my exploration of the Rock and the different cards that go in the Rock for a while. I won't talk about the Rock for at least 2 months, I promise.
That's okay. It was interesting. I didn't know about it, so it was,
I love green.
To see how
I've been going crazy.
Different versions of the deck are, and yeah,
I've been going crazy about Premodern green. I started with my
You've been
mono
all over the green.
Then 10 land stompy. Then I moved to the Rock. Might be all greened out for a while though. I
really like black green. That's the thing about the Rock that got me excited. Yeah. I want to play black green.
Build that Diabolic Servitude version. The Hermits are collapsing. Just keep waiting. Final segment, Alex. What is the final segment of the day? Every episode of the Old Man Magic podcast.
The Commander Corner.
The Old Man Magic Commander Corner. This is the segment where Alex and I add more cards to our first ever Commander decks that we are building. These are old frame only Commander decks because that's most of what we have. We haven't gotten into the modern cards yet. I have named my deck. It is named The Pump. It was inspired by a scene in Pumping Iron with Arnold Schwarzenegger. My commander is Jacques Lever. It is a Naya deck. White, green, red. It's a creature-heavy deck. Every creature in this deck will be green or gold with green mana. The idea is to play a lot of creatures and a lot of creatures and spells that pump those creatures. So the Jacques Lever will give my green creatures +0/+2. I got a K's in here to give all my green creatures +1/+1. I got Waiuli Wolves to pump. I got Stampede Driver to pump and give trample. I got Giant Growth to pump because you got to have a Giant Growth in a green deck called the Pump. I got Invigorate to pump. I got Rancor to pump. I got Mirari's Wake to pump. I got Fires of Yawamaya to pump.
The recaps for the deck are getting longer every week.
I've got Pendelhaven to pump. They're just going to keep getting longer, Alex. Commander decks have 100 cards in them.
I know.
2 months from now, this is going to be 30 minutes of the episode. I'm adding a card today, Alex. It is another card that pumps. Alex, if I were to say to you this phrase,
I know.
What would you say to me in response? My love for you is like a truck.
Berserker.
I am adding Berserk, Alex.
I knew it.
To my commander deck. I watched this clip from Clerks the other day on YouTube when I was writing this out because I wanted to make sure I had that sentence correct.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a terrible movie, I think.
What?
I never really liked that movie. Even in that scene, it was annoying. It's just Kevin Smith. There's something about him. Nice guy. I don't know. You just sit there in your trench coat and you smoke a cigarette. Not that into you. If there was no Jay and Silent Bob,
Oh, well, if it's
it'd be
just
total
Silent
dog
Bob,
shit.
yeah.
Jay makes the movie. Jay's the
Yeah.
only good thing in the movie.
I like the dialogue in that movie. The writing and the dialogue, the conversations they have are funny.
It's overrated.
Randall's funny.
It's very annoying people for the most part. But, you know, different strokes. I did not buy this terrible version of Berserk.
Which version
Alex,
did you buy?
Did I buy an alpha Berserk, Alex?
No.
Did I buy a
Did you
beta?
buy an unlimited Berserk?
I bought an unlimited Berserk.
Wow. All right. Congratulations.
I'm going big. I always wanted a Berserk. Never owned a Berserk.
Really? Oh.
Some people had Berserks. You had a Berserk,
I had
right?
one. I had one.
I never had a Berserk. Now I'm a proud owner of a piece of cardboard with a psychotic man drooling over a pool of blood. Thank you, Dan Frazier.
Heck yeah.
I've added Berserk to my deck called The Pump.
I'm a prudent choice.
Now we move on to Alex's commander deck. Alex, I will let you recap your commander deck. Please go for at least 7 to 8 minutes.
Oh, God.
Alex's deck is currently named Alex. Okay,
Alex. Go. Mine's called Alex. This is a variation on a group hug deck. It's meant to keep the board state even, keep people from attacking me, pit my enemies against each other by at first appeasing people and making them happy that I'm around, and then later on crushing them.
Dastardly.
Yeah. It's a mess. I'm throwing all kinds of random cards in here, and I'm probably going to take some of them out, and we'll see. I've never built a deck like this before, and there's all sorts of cards that I sort of go, oh, this might be neat in here, and then I'm kind of like, so.
It is hard to build a group hug deck because you can just think of all sorts of things that are kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is what you've done. You think of all sorts of things that might be fun in a multiplayer context. And then 30, 40 cards in, you just have a bunch of cards that don't necessarily make sense together.
Yeah.
And might be very hard to play
and they're not mana-wise win the game
together. And then you also think, yeah, how am I supposed to ever actually do anything?
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to work through this. That's why I said last time I'm gonna start trying to work on having specific categories for my cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think today I will do part 1 of defensive cards. I'm gonna throw a couple defensive cards in.
You're adding multiple cards today.
Yeah, I'll put 2 cards in.
Mm-hmm.
Elephant Grass. Do you remember this card?
I do. There are some people who play green Enchantress decks in Premodern who love the Elephant Grass.
Mm-hmm.
It's a green enchantment. Does it have cumulative upkeep?
I believe so.
Yeah. Elephant Grass. Here we go. Visions. 1 green. Enchantment. There's the grass. There's the elephant. Cumulative upkeep 1 colorless. Black creatures cannot attack you. Non-black creatures cannot attack you unless their controller plays an additional 2 colorless for each attacking creature. So it really slows down creature heavy decks coming your way.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't know if this is, it's only 1 green. It's cheap. I'm not sure if it'll stay in or not. It does one of the things I might want it, want some defensive cards to do. I'm not sure if it's the best bet. I don't know. I
mean, it gets some play, like I said, in Enchantress decks. Mm-hmm. You have some synergy in your deck with this, with the Ephemeral Enchantress. So whenever an enchantment is put into any graveyard from play, draw a card. Eventually you're going to sack the Elephant Grass. You're not going to be playing that cumulative upkeep forever. Mm-hmm. But, your Ephemeral Enchantress isn't always going to be in play.
Other alternative defensive card. I'm going to put this in 2 for now. Maybe I'll take out one of these. Maybe I'll take out the Elephant Grass. Island Sanctuary.
Is this a white card?
Yeah. With the Pegasus?
Yeah.
This is a card that we would never play. It's you get this in revised from a pack. You're like, that goes into the pile of Island Sanctuaries.
I never played an Island Sanctuary,
Neither have I.
but you're going to start now.
Yeah, I saw some people recommend it for defensive decks.
1 colorless, 1 white enchantment. During your draw phase, you may draw 1 less card from your library. If you do so until start of your next turn, the only creatures that can attack you are those with flying or island walk. Did you get an alpha?
I don't know. Huh?
Alpha version?
No.
Alpha printing?
No.
What printing?
Revised.
You're setting up your defenses, Alex.
Yeah, setting up my defenses. I don't know about those 2 cards.
You need a moat.
I'm gonna put some wall. I think I'm gonna. Bleh, I can't talk. I'm looking at Wall of Roots and Wall of Blossoms. Thinking about
I'd be looking at those walls. Those are good walls.
Festival also, and Fog, possible picks. We'll see.
There's definitely lots of stuff out there with like fog effects, creatures with fog-like abilities. There's a lot more fog than there was when we played back in the day, and all we had to fog was fog.
Yeah, it might be better. Yeah, maybe I should try to find like a creature with an ability like that or something, as opposed to just the spell.
There's Spore Frog.
Oh yeah,
Spore Frog is a fogger frog,
Fogger Frog.
I believe. I think this did some work on the tournament scene.
Oh, I like this.
Back in the day.
Like this.
Prophecy, cheap card, 1 green, 1/1, creature, frog. Sacrifice Spore Frog, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn.
Put Spore Frog in my deck, Steve.
Nice.
Put him in.
You're going ham today. 3-card.
Yeah,
3-card edition.
I'm running out of slots. I don't know. I'm gonna. How many cards
This is now
do I
your
have
win.
in here already?
This is your win condition now.
My Spore Frog. Pathetic.
Did I add it? Here we go. Did I add the Spore Frog, Alex?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, there we go. You're going OG Prophecy.
Yeah.
Original printing. Not to brag, 35 cents. Prophecy. There we go.
Cool. Yeah, this is a mess. I don't know. I'm going to revamp, but
You need something to bring the Spore
I'll
Frog
keep
back
putting
from
some
your graveyard.
placeholders in for now.
I mean, the Spore, if you're looking for something with fog-like ability, Spore Frog is good, I think.
Yeah, good recommendation. I like that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Productive.
Good Monday, Alex. Good Monday show. I think that brings us to the end of
It's time for
episode
bed.
33 of the Old Man Magic podcast. It is very late for both of us. It's way past our bedtimes. But I want to say thank you for listening. I'm sure you listened from the beginning to the end. I'm thanking you for that. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe to the Old Man Magic podcast. We post every week on YouTube. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I think I'm all magicked out for the day. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Alex?
No, I'm going to bed.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Talk to you next week.